So the supply suffocation created by these 9 new Bitcoin spot ETFs has sent Bitcoin to a new all-time high before the Bitcoin halving. This has never happened before in Bitcoin's life. And something else that's never happened before in Bitcoin's life is the fact that it could be about to be embraced by a US presidential candidate, because Donald Trump had some very interesting things to say about Bitcoin earlier on today, just before Bitcoin ripped through $72,000 only hours later. So today we're going to be discussing all of that, and we're going to start by having a look at the state of the Bitcoin all-time highs we're seeing all around the world today. We can see Bitcoin is not only at an all-time high in America, but it's at an all-time high all around the world. Now, this is the chart that's got Bitcoin Twitter on fire today. And now this is the Bitcoin chart in US dollars. And we can see that right now, Bitcoin is trading at $72,000 and 730 or $72,738, which is an all-time high. Now we can see when we're actually having a look at the countries all around the world, Bitcoin's at an all-time high in. There's only 3 left on the list that we haven't quite got to yet today. Bitcoin is not quite at an all-time high in the Swiss franc, Mexican peso, or Brazilian real, but we are getting closer in these countries, okay? Maybe we'll get closer to $75,000 if we get bullish during this live stream. Austin says $75,000 during the live stream. Let's see. But what is causing these new all-time highs all around the world? Well, as we alluded to in the introduction, has a little bit to do with the Bitcoin spot ETFs. So let's have a look at what's happened in the space of the Bitcoin spot ETFs this week. And if we're going to do that, we got to check in with the ETF guru, Eric Valkunas. So we can see he has tweeted some fascinating charts this week. Now, this one is a really interesting one for a number of reasons, because it's actually showing the growth that these Bitcoin spot ETFs have seen. So Eric says, after the first 2 months officially in the books, the 10 Bitcoin ETFs now have over $55 billion in assets, which is absolutely crazy to see. But Eric didn't stop there. He's been tweeting about the Bitcoin spot ETFs all week, and he has a couple of really interesting charts I want to pull apart with you guys, namely being this one here. So have a look at the increase in the amount of volume that we have seen. So these are weekly charts, okay? This is showing the amount of volume in these Bitcoin spot ETFs by the week, okay? Now, again, let's remember, it's normal for most ETF products to see the most amount of volume they're going to see in the first week, and in particular on the first day. But that's not the case with the Bitcoin spot ETFs. We can see by this chart here that the amount of volume we're seeing is only increasing, okay? And it's increasing a lot. That's the really, really interesting thing. $30 billion worth of volume this week in March. Now you compare that to the first week of volume when the Bitcoin spot ETFs, yes, broke records. Let's not forget that, but we only saw about $9 billion in volume. Today we're seeing 30 billion, which is 3 times more than the first week. Okay, this is absolutely unprecedented. This is absolutely incredible. This is something that traditional finance still has not kind of wrapped its head around, and traditional finance does not know what to do with a Bitcoin spot ETF. Okay. It doesn't know how to treat it. It doesn't know what's happening next. We can see Eric Balkunas also popped this tweet out, which could potentially trigger some gold bugs. Let's have a look at this one here. So Eric says, new from me on how conquering gold ETFs could be too easy a goal for the spot Bitcoin ETFs. The early flows and volume are just overwhelming. Sets a strong foundation for future growth. So he popped out a very interesting article today, and you can see that this chart here is really interesting. So it's showing the size of the technology ETFs on the left, and you can obviously see it's massive. But then gold is the second biggest ETF product that Eric has on this chart here. And Bitcoin, honestly, in the blue here, it isn't too far behind gold in terms of its size. Yes, we know that there's a few other ETFs in front of Bitcoin and behind gold. So we have the ESG ETFs, the real estate ETFs, the low volatility ETFs, and then we have the Bitcoin ETFs. So we are kind of trending in the correct direction here, which is really, really promising to see. So we can see Full Happy House says, please give me some Bitcoin. We got Rob chiming in. The peso is so strong. The Mexican peso is strong, and that is surprising to many people. Then that is kind of tied into what we're going to talk about next. Something else that's surprising lots of people is how this is evolving over here. Now, this is, again, this is one of our favorite websites we like to check out when we're tracking these Bitcoin ETFs. This is heyapollo.com. Now, what we've seen now that's surprising is the 9 new Bitcoin spot ETFs have officially flipped the amount of Bitcoin held by Grayscale. Okay, so we can see by this chart here, Grayscale's got 396,000 Bitcoin in it. The 9 new Bitcoin ETFs already have 400,000 Bitcoin. Okay, absolutely incredible growth. And this little video here, again, this is a brilliant video. Props, where props is due. And it shows that BlackRock is really pulling away from the rest of the pack. They are the dominant winner now. They hold 196,000 Bitcoin, which is an incredible amount of Bitcoin. And it shows how these ETFs are kind of like a winner take all or a winner take most kind of situation. Okay. Now, Fidelity has the chance to catch up. It really does. But Fidelity isn't quite where BlackRock is right now when we're talking about these Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now, we talked about Donald Trump in the introduction of today's video. Now, I want to play the video for anyone who missed it. This was Donald Trump today on CNBC. Now, we're going to play this one from the beginning. I've got a couple of different thoughts and potentially different perspectives that many people had on this video that I did see on Twitter today.
A thing that people smile at, but
at first.
Well, let's take it its own life. You know, I do little things sometimes for fun and, you know, make money with it. But I have fun with it too.
You mean
NFTs,
you bought Bitcoin?
No. But I sometimes will let people pay through Bitcoin, or will let people get involved in a new. It's, you know, if you think of it, it's an additional form of currency. And I used to say, you know, I want one currency. I want the dollar.
So Donald says that Bitcoin is a new type of currency and we're going to let people pay in Bitcoin. I think that was his exact words. The host of CNBC asked him if he owned any Bitcoin and he said no very quickly. Now that's interesting because most people would know that Donald Trump did actually get exposed last year for holding Ethereum. And obviously that was because he was selling lots of NFTs on Ethereum. Now, again, he hasn't really had any comment about Bitcoin for years, okay? He's kind of been out of the mainstream media for the past 2 years. He obviously came out and said he didn't like Bitcoin all the way back in 2021, just after he concluded that his presidency. But we didn't really hear much about him over the past couple of years, except for the fact that his Ethereum wallet got exposed to the public. And then Donald kind of popped his head back up and made a comment on what's actually happening in the, you know, digital currency space, if we're going to call it that, because only 2 or 3 weeks ago, he came out and he said, I do not like CBDCs. So this was obviously because of the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy kind of tapped him on the shoulder and educated Trump that it might be good for him to actually kind of oppose CBDCs. So this was about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And now we're hearing these kind of warm comments about Bitcoin today. This is essentially a pivot by Donald Trump. Now, this is interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about why we could be seeing this Donald Trump pivot now, okay? Why is he making the pivot now? We're going to talk about that in a second, but I want to play the rest of this video because there's a couple of other very interesting points that I want you guys to pay attention to.
If you think of it, it's an additional form of currency. And I used to say, you know, I want one currency. I want the dollar. I don't want people leaving the dollar. And I feel that way, but I will tell you, it has taken on a life. I did a thing that people smile at, but It was wild. We did 1,000 sneakers, so limited edition sneaker run. The last one, and you could go through, you know, our crazy new currencies, because that's what I call them. They're crazy, whether it's Bitcoin or others. And so many people were buying these things. And ultimately, the last pair of sneakers sold for approximately, I hear, $450,000. It was a limited edition, a run. They were gold. They were, you know, nice, cute. And we thought it was just a very small thing. It was a branding thing, and had a good time with it. The last pair.
So what do you think about Donald Trump calling Bitcoin a crazy new currency? Okay, that was interesting. But the point of that interview that I want to really draw your attention to is the fact that Donald Trump is a US dollar maximalist. Okay, he said it. He said he only wants one currency, the US dollar. He doesn't want other countries moving away from the US dollar. Okay, this is very interesting because most people think that Bitcoin adoption is actually bad for the US dollar. Okay, we're going to talk about why that is potentially not the case at the end of this little Donald Trump interview that surfaced today. But again, think about why he's saying we only want US dollars. We want more countries holding US dollars. And he's made this pivot about Bitcoin. Is he beginning to realize that Bitcoin adoption around the world is potentially good for US dollar adoption? We're going to talk about that in a second. I want to play the rest of this video first before we go down that rabbit hole.
Sold for $450,000. People were going crazy for these sneakers. You probably were too. Everybody was. I have every friend I have has called me for a pair of sneakers. So it just took off. And I noticed that so many of them were paid for with this with the new currency.
Crypto,
and it is that. It's a new cryptocurrency. And I couldn't believe the amount. And I'm saying, you know, this thing has really, and other things I do, people are using it. And, you know, I would be, I'm very much a traditionalist. I like staying with the dollar. You know that from when I was there. It's make the dollar the choice. I hate when countries go off the dollar. I would not allow countries to go off the dollar, because when we lose that standard, that will be like losing a revolutionary war.
So Donald Trump believes that when countries move off the dollar, that would be like losing a revolutionary war. Okay, they're some pretty bold comments. They're very, very bold comments. Now, I think those are interesting comments because Michael Saylor has had similar thoughts about the US dollar and Bitcoin previously. Okay, obviously, Michael Saylor's always said that as Bitcoiners, we shouldn't try to oppose fiat currency. We don't want to start a war with governments and central banks. Michael Saylor always says we should try to focus our attention on attacking gold and just allowing Bitcoin to be this digital property. And then kind of, you know, we just kind of Trojan horse our way into becoming the global reserve currency. Okay. But Michael Saylor's kind of said that it's a bad thing if countries kind of move away from the US dollar. So let's not kind of try to accelerate that trend. Let's just kind of, you know, attack the gold bugs and kind of just allow Bitcoin to become this different kind of currency, okay? Kind of that works kind of in tandem with the US dollar. I think those are interesting thoughts. Now, while we're talking about Michael Saylor, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that Michael Saylor has come out announcing he's going to buy another $600 million worth of Bitcoin. I believe I saw him tweeting about that this morning, which is absolutely crazy. Michael Saylor is really acting as if we are on the precipice of a digital gold rush, okay? If you didn't see that, Michael Saylor actually said that he believes the next 10 years in Bitcoin's life between today, 2024, and November 2034 are going to be known as the 10-year digital gold rush, okay? Now, we actually filmed a video breaking down this topic in depth. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the 10-year digital gold rush, you can find that video on our YouTube channel. And with all that said, hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. We will see you guys in the next one.